When you're scrapbooking with beautiful, busy papers like this Marbled Elegance pack from Stampin Up, it can be a little bit tricky to not have these really busy patterns overwhelm your photos. So in this video, I want to show you some tips and tricks for making it work, and we are going to make a layout together. This video is part of a collaboration with my Crafty Hearts team, and the theme for this collab is love. So of course I thought Valentine's, since we just had Valentine's Day. These photos are actually a little photo shoot that my friend Michelle did last year, and I hadn't scrapbooked them yet, so I cannot wait to get these down on a layout. They are super cute. There was even more than this, and it was a little bit difficult to narrow down which ones I wanted to use. Make sure you check out my other team members' videos. I will put them down in the description box and in a playlist at the end of today's video. Now, the first way that I am going to cut down on some of this busyness, even though it is very gorgeous, as you can see, my photos are kind of busy because we have that really fun XO background. So to start off, I am going to bring in white for my bases just to help calm down these really busy patterns. Neutrals in general are a really great way to add some rest, some calm, somewhere for your eyes to land. And the other thing to keep in mind is always the B-sides or the back sides of the papers. These ones are definitely hero patterns. They're gorgeous. I believe they were made by marbling paint and then photographing it. So we have all these beautiful details mixed in with gold foil, very high contrast with the white and red or white and pink. I really love this one with all the little bubbles. Oh, it's so pretty. But the B-sides or the back sides on these are pretty calm. We got some tone-on-tone patterns, little cute hearts. We have some tone-on-tone roses in the pink. Now I'm thinking red is probably going to be my best bet since I have a lot of red in my photos, but I might bring in a little bit of pink as well. I also want to apologize for my voice. I am still trying to get over a virus, and I couldn't wait any longer to make this video for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I hope it's not too distracting. Now, since this is one of my favorites, I was thinking a good way to use this and not have it be a large element on my page would be to just mat it, use it as a mat. Now I want the mat to be big enough so I can actually see some of it. If I make it really tiny, it's really not going to show much, but you could do it that way. But if I make the mat a little bit bigger, then we'll get more impact from that pattern, but still keeping it small. Now looking at my photos, I do have a lot of white, black, red. Those are really the main colors. And then of course we have some brown from Lucky here. He's Isabella's little buddy. And he's not so little, he's a pretty big guy. But I'm thinking, what if we mat this a little bit? In Nicole's video, who's part of this collab, she did some matting on her layouts, and so did Julie. She did quite a bit of matting too. And I thought, you know what, that's a great idea, and this could make a nice little layer, just help pop it from the background and bring in more of the black. Again, sticking to those neutrals. Now, as I often do, I decided to go looking for a sketch, and this is from one of the creative design team sketchbooks. I believe it is volume 2, the 12 by 12 volume 2 book. And you can see we have hexagons going on here in the background, and then just some clusters of flowers, as well as quite a few photos. Now, I have only portrait photos to work with, so these landscape photos, I'm going to need to switch those up to make it work. And I'm thinking maybe of not using hexagons and just substituting with a different shape. Now I'm going to have to adjust the measurements because here the sketch shows just a thin border all the way around. And I'm thinking I don't want to have the border in the middle. I want the two pages to flow together kind of seamlessly. So let's cut down the black and the white and then see what we've got. Okay, so I have my black and white here. You can see it matted there. And then I'm just going to see if I like that spacing. Just have to move this up a little bit more. I think that's pretty good. I don't want to go too much smaller because I know that I have quite a few photos to fit on here, and if I make this white piece too small, then I'm going to have trouble with that. And don't worry, I will gut this paper. I'm not going to waste all that beautiful paper underneath here. I'm just kind of laying things out to see if I like the sizes that I've cut everything, and I think it's looking good. Now, following my sketch, I want to start laying out my photos. So we have a 4x4 on this side. Put down my 4x6s first and just see how those are going to work. And then I think for these, you see how she's looking kind of off this way a little bit. I want to put her on this page, so she's looking back into the layout. Same with this one, she's looking the other way, so I know I want her on this side. This one, she's pretty much looking straight, and this one, Lucky, is looking off to the left slightly, so we'll put him up here. I also like how that balances his colors on the layout. Since I only have 2 photos of him, then I have a little bit on each page, which I think balances things a little bit better. Now I can kind of play with spacing, but that is the general idea. I think I might want to move this one up a little bit. So you can see there's a lot of photos and there's a lot going on with that background. Now, because I have a white base, I could just leave these without mats, but that's just not how I roll. I usually always mat my photos, and I'm thinking I don't want to really bring in any color. So black mats, I think, is going to be the right move here. My photos are not true 4x6s. I didn't want to stretch them out to make a 4x6 because then I would end up cutting off more of the photo. So they are 4x5.5, which actually works out great for my page since this page I cut down the white and I don't have as much space to play with. I just did an 1/8 of an inch border all the way around, and I think that's going to be enough to just give them a little bit more weight on the page, give them a frame. I'm worried if I go too much bigger that it's going to take up too much room on the layout. So now they are all matted, and I think that looks really good. We got just that nice fine black border. I probably could have achieved something similar even just by inking all the edges in black, but that can get a little bit messy, especially with photo paper. I use like a semi-gloss photo paper, which is lovely, but it also absorbs ink pretty well. So sometimes it can get a little bit dicey and you end up with like bits of ink and stuff where you don't want it. So I think the paper mats worked out great. And now looking at my sketch, I want to decide how I'm going to bring in more of the patterned papers in just little bits in these sections. You see, I have a little bit here, a little bit larger space here, and then a little bit here and here so that it kind of flows through the page. Now, since we are documenting Valentine's Day, I think it would make really good sense to bring in some hearts. So this is Hearts of Elegance, and this is a bundle, but something that I like to do when I know there are dies in a set that I'm going to use a lot, I like to package those dies separately. So in this bundle, you have all your stamps and then the dies that coordinate with the flower and the leaves. So actually, I took a little leftover piece of magnet that I had from a small Close to My Heart set, and I just mounted it in the case because I'm not going to use those outline dies with anything else other than this set. So I have those in here, and then I'm keeping these separately just in the original packaging. So I take the little insert that comes in the die sets, I tape it together, I add a magnet sheet, and then I can store this with my dies because I know I will be reaching for hearts, probably more than just Valentine's and like these stamps. So this is how I like to package them. And I'm thinking what we can do is have some hearts. I just need to decide kind of what sizes. We have one here that has this really pretty piercing detail. That's really lovely. So you can have that. I'm thinking probably stay away from the 2 biggest hearts, but this one also has really nice piercing detail. And this one, the small one, has this nice pierced border as well. Those are kind of the sizes. This is the biggest one I want to use. And I don't know, I might even stick just with these 4 smaller sizes and leave this for an embellishment. So I guess the next step is I want to gut my background paper And that way I can go ahead and cut some hearts out of the middle part here, because I also have this really nice distress pattern, which I think is going to go really good with this page. It works out that they have 2 different shades of red on their shirts, a darker and a brighter. So all the reds in this pack should actually work really well. So I made the decision to just gut out my paper like this. Hopefully it's not too hard to stick down my layers on top of, but it is what it is. I wanted to save as much paper as I could so that I could use it for my die cutting and other things. All right, so I'm going to start with the 4 smaller hearts, and then we'll see how it goes. When it comes to patterns, I have this darker red one. I have this tone-on-tone little heart one, and then there's a little bit brighter red one that has these leaves in it. This one is actually a good match for her shirt, and this darker red is a good match for my friend's shirt. And then I will probably work in a little bit of this side as well. I just want to make sure that I don't go crazy on that side and incorporate too much. I do have a little bit of pink in here as far as in her little hair scrunchies and then also in her glasses. So we'll see if we work in some pink. Some of these patterns have like red and pink, and there might be a little touch of it here and there. Now, when I am die cutting up my paper, usually it looks like someone's been munching on my paper, because I will just go ahead, place my die, especially if I'm not sure how many I want to cut, and I will just rough cut around it. Do that with all my specialty papers too, to try and save as much of it as possible. You could also just cut it in strips, but sometimes you will end up with more waste that way. So I'm just going to go ahead and die cut a whole bunch of hearts with my Big Shot, and then I will be back. All right, this is where I've landed so far. I'm thinking I'm definitely going to need to edge these to make them pop a little bit, whether that's with a marker or with ink. I think I need to do that so that the heart shape actually stands out. This is where my journaling is going to go, and this is where the title is going. So before I start inking, I'm just going to dry fit the other pieces where I want to put them and see how that looks. I have a little heart sitting here because I thought it might be nice I have the 4 areas of hearts, and I thought I might want to bring just a little heart and then add like a little gold heart over here as well, just so that I have like 5 areas, because I like the odd number instead of an even number. I think it looks a little bit better, and I have room for it because I have my journaling going here. So for my title, I'm going to bring in the Alphabet a la Mode dies. These are actually part of Sale-A-Bration right now. They were just added this month, and I like how tall and skinny they are. You also get multiples of some letters, like 2 E's, 2 A's, 2 L's. There's quite a few that have multiples, and they make these like really tall, skinny letters. I cut mine out of black glitter paper. That was some stuff that I had in my stash from close to my heart. And I think they're fun because you can add like really long titles if you want to, because you can squeeze a lot of letters into a small little space. My title is going to say Cutie Pie Valentine, which I thought was a fun title name. I kind of want to center it under here. I also want to check my spacing to make sure I have enough space before I stick things down, because I might want to shove all of this up just a little bit. We'll see. I didn't have a really skinny Valentine word, and I didn't want to put the whole thing in this font. I could have fit it across the bottom here, but what I thought would be fun would be to have a little strip just going across. I'll probably pop dot it up, and I thought that would be a really cute way to do the title. And as long as I don't put it right through the middle and I kind of put it towards the bottom, I think it should still be easy enough to read. So I just typed this up on my computer, turned it to like a red, turned out a little bit more pink than I thought, and then I just cut that into a strip, and I will probably flag the ends and make it look like a little banner and put it on a strip of foam so that it will stand up over my title. Remember, if you want to get any of the Sale-A-Bration freebies, all you have to do is place an order of $75, and then you can get the item of your choice for free. And then if your order is higher than that, you can get multiple free items on a single order. These dies are, I think, like a $58 value. So with a $75 order and then you get these for free, that is a really good deal. I want to bring in some of the sentiments from this set for my white hearts. I want to have a look and see how that is looking before I stick anything down, because that'll be my last sort of busy element. And I do feel like this is getting a bit busy. I might need to switch out some of the gold foil hearts for some more solid colors. I had also debated mixing in maybe a little bit of black hearts, so I might try that as well. I'm going to use Real Red for this, and I'm just going to slide this up and out of the way. I have too many loose pieces on there to try and move it. This is one of the reds that are in this paper pack, and I think it should match really well. This says Happy Valentine's Day. Make sure I got good coverage and just put it right across the middle. Perfect. I like to clean my stamps with the stamp Shammy, and I just keep it on my desk in a little glass mason jar. Works pretty good, and then when it dries out, I can just re-wet it, and I use way less baby wipes than I ever used to. Now, I think it would be fun to add a gold edge to my hearts, so I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir metallic paint marker. Just need to give them a little shake because they are paint. And I'm using the wide end. And then I'm just going to go right around the edges, give it a bit of a border. I could do this on my other hearts, but I feel like that's a lot of gold. It might be better on the white because it just helps them stand out a little bit, since they are kind of the focal point of those clusters. And I think if I add too much gold, it's just going to be really busy, especially once I bring in my little gold embellishment hearts. Now you have to let that dry before you go and set it on your page, because inevitably there's some that gets on the backside and it will transfer. So while I'm waiting for this, I'm just going to take a black ink. This is Intense ink, but you can use any black ink, and I'm going to go ahead and ink my edges. I'm going to do most of this off camera because I don't like inking over a white background. Inevitably, I'm going to have little bits of foam falling out, and then that's where you end up with streaks and dots and little bits of ink in places you don't want it. I'm just going to go around all of the edges, give them a nice black border and some definition. While I had the camera off and I was inking, I had a thought. I felt like it was getting too busy with too many hearts. So I decided to just roll that back a little bit, take off some of the hearts, make my clusters a bit smaller, because I do have to keep in mind I do have busy photos on here as well as busier papers. So I just want to try and balance that. There's quite a bit of empty white space on the hearts, which I think helps, kind of helps calm down the clusters. And I did decide to put a little heart over here, and then I can just put my journaling right here, and then there will still be some white space because I don't have a ton to say, but I think it should fit in this little space here really nicely. Now I am toying with the idea of adding a little bit of splatter because the background, the backdrop in my photos here has like a black splatter background. And I thought that could be fun to add, not everywhere, but just kind of around the outside of my clusters. Since I don't have anything stuck down yet, I can go ahead and do it. And if I really hate it, I can, swap out the white paper or just flip it over. Now the question is, how dark do I want them to be? So I'm using this splatter here, the more rounded one. And this is the first generation of the Intense Black, which is the one that I used on the edges. We've got second generation, third generation. And now I just got to decide how dark I want those splatters to be. This ink pad needs re-inking, and that's why it's looking kind of light for a black ink pad. If you had one that was like really juicy, I think you definitely want to stamp off. I might even add a little bit around my title, kind of get it to come over into the title a little bit. I think I might go ahead and try full strength and just see how I like it. Since it isn't particularly a very juicy ink pad right now, I think it should turn out okay. Now this part is a little bit tedious, but I'm going to go around each of my clusters, just kind of scoot things out of the way and start stamping my splatters. I'm going to do a combination of first and second generation, just because some areas I want to fill in with a little bit more, but I don't want it to be super dark black splatters and take away from my page. I think this is a fun little detail that adds on to the feeling of the photos because that backdrop has some black splatter, and now my pages do too. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the stamping off camera, and then I'll be back. I went ahead and stuck everything down so you didn't have to watch that painful process. And now I just want to show you how I'm going to do my title. So I used my grid mat to line up all my letters, and then I put a piece of washi tape across them to keep them all kind of in a line together. And now I'm going with my Barely Art glue and just adding tiny little dots of glue. I want to make sure that it's not going to seep out the edge of these really thin letters when I go to put it down. And having them all together on a piece of washi like this really helps because they are so thin and delicate, and I can make sure I get them right where I wanted, line them up between my photos, and then I'm just going to go along and press them all down. Liquid glue works really good for this because you do have some time in between setting them down and pressing them on, where if something goes a little bit crooked, you can go back and fix it. Now I'm just carefully peeling off that washi tape, and I love how I have a perfectly placed title. For this little strip, I cut a banner end on each side and inked it with black, and then popped it up on foam tape. Now everything is stuck down, and this is the finished layout. So I'm really glad I went ahead and added those splatters. I think they added quite a bit to it. You can see where I went in and added all those little adhesive gold hearts and my title. Super cute. I really love how this came together. And I think it's a good balance between the busy and leaving enough white space to kind of give your eye a space to rest, as well as like white space around all the words. Make sure you go and check out the other videos in this collaboration. They are linked here in this playlist, and don't forget to check out Sale-A-Bration before it ends at the end of February. I will see you soon with another video.